Okay, second sound test. How's our sound now? All right, cool. Sounds like we have sound now. Sorry about that, everybody. Yep, new headphones. Recover the old ones that broke. All right, Jana, welcome to the stream. Thanks for showing up. Yeah, sounds like you're recovering from Turkey. What's going on, everyone? Because science teacher. Hello, everyone. All right, hold on a second. All right. Cool. We got a good sound test from everyone in the stream. All right, awesome. Alrighty, let me go ahead and switch to our camera here. We are gonna have a couple technical difficulties. I've switched over to a new laptop finally, yeah, and everyone rejoices, I'm sure. Um, the thing is, I'm still getting used to it here. Control Enter. Okay, so hopefully now we see some. Oh man, look at my big ass gut. Let me get that off camera. All right. So I'm trying to see what we see over there on camera. All right, cool. So hopefully this camera looks a little better than our old camera, which was pretty atrocious. And we got some pretty good, some decent lighting for a change. And we're gonna do some super fast hobby. Again, this isn't gonna be a big long stream, everybody, because we're still trying to recover from the holiday weekend. We certainly didn't have any games planned for today, because again, holiday weekend, everyone. So, alrighty. So we wanted to, just have a stream to keep our schedule and make sure that we didn't miss anything, and make sure that we didn't let down any of our audience or our subscribers, Patreon supporters, and everyone else who's cool enough to check us out whenever we go on the air. Okay, so I've been working on my U.S. Marine Force for the 1991 Gulf War. These guys are mostly back here. Um, oh, we were talking about this the other day in the podcast. Um, we also have them over on tabletop on our project thread. They're pretty much done. At least the vehicles are. These are again from the Rhines Leathernecks set from Battlefront for Team Yankee. Obviously, I have rebuilt them here to a significant degree. Hold on one second. Are we okay, John? Why do you keep lancing up here like that? Don't worry about it. Okay, we're back. Um, so yeah, I've rebuilt this to a significant degree. Again, nothing wrong with the original Battlefront kit. It's just I'm using it for a different purpose. I'm not, playing 1980s theoretical Cold War gone hot in West Germany. We're doing 1991 Gulf War. So I've added these ERA panels, and in the project thread I go into how we did all that, and some radio antenna, and of course we're not using the four color paint scheme that we see for NATO in Germany in the mid 1980s. So again, three M60s, six Humvees of different configuration, five um, LAVs, LAV 25s of different configurations. Those are from the LAV 25 platoon. You don't get those in Ryan's Leathernecks. I also have some AAVs, amphibious assault vehicles, AAV 7s, formerly called the LVTP 7. We actually saw these in the Falklands War, believe it or not. The Argentinians were using these in their initial invasion, Operation Rosario, to April 1982. These actually aren't technically miniatures. These are from the old Forces of Valor line. These are some great little toys that you can get in either 1 to 72, or 1 to 72 or 20 millimeter, or 1 to 144 10 millimeter, or 1 to 32, which are great. You see awesome stuff from them in 1 to 32. Their 1 to 32 stuff is great. This is what we were aiming at with those Marine Corps M60s. Obviously, the scale here is totally different. They are expensive. They are toys, they're not miniatures, and their scale is a little wonky, especially at the smaller scales. So their 1 to 72 stuff is great. Their 1 to 32 stuff is great. I bought some 10 millimeter stuff from them, 1 to 44, 1 to 144, I should say, and I'm getting some very bizarre results. So don't buy them for miniatures in the smaller scales. They're great toys, and sometimes you get lucky. I got these U.S. Army M2 Bradleys. I'm going to replace the gun. This gun is very chunky, kind of a toy gun. I'm going to replace the gun with a more miniature slash model type 25 millimeter Bushmaster. But other than that, yeah, of course you don't get the gaps between the wheels, but you can paint your way around that. Obviously, you would put a dark wash on this to make it look better, to pop the details a little bit. But yeah, that's basically a miniature. So I'm trying to also build up some U.S. Army stuff, not just U.S. Marine Corps stuff, um, in for Desert Storm. Um, and of course, I have my Iraqis that I'm working on over there. All my Iraqi stuff is over here. I'm going to use the Soviet infantry from Plastic Soldier Company to fill out my Iraqi ranks for infantry. But none of that is what we are working on today. What we're working on today is this boat that has been laying around on my shelf for the better part of 2 years. So my girlfriend and I, for a Christmas trip back in, oh God, Jen, when was it? 1990, or I'm sorry, 2000. It was 2 years ago, two Christmases ago. So I guess Christmas of 2017. We went out to SeaWorld because it's something to do, and we got this boat, or I should say, I got this boat. It was on clearance. It was like for $10 or something like that, in there in the park, and it was a. Let me take that roof off for now. It was a almost like a bathtub toy. It went all the way. First of all, it was all like bright yellow, like school bus yellow, and then it had all the underneath. It had a little propeller down here, a little electric motor. That's where the batteries used to go. And you give it to your kid to play with in the bathtub or the pool or whatever. But I took it home and I realized that with these windows and this door back here in the pilot house, this is almost exactly a 20 millimeter scale. I have some 1 to 72 infantry hanging around, and so I said, and most of my moderns is in 1 to 72. So I figured, okay, I'm going to go ahead and repurpose this as a modern war boat. So obviously, when I was up at my dad's workshop, because only he's got the kind of tools that can do this, um, took a reciprocating saw of some type or another. I can't remember the exact type of saw. Cut off as closely as we could the bottom part of the boat. Used some hot glue gun to create a little bit of a wake. It also kind of hid where that cutting was pretty rough. Um, Took out the little battery compartment. That opened up this little panel here. That's where the batteries used to go. With some mat board. I don't know if you can see how that had to be cut. Those little corners had to be cut out of there. That gets that fits in here pretty snugly. I'll eventually put some glue in there. Obviously, took the airbrush to it. Um, Airbrushed, this little bit of a tactical, modern naval sort of a camouflage scheme on it. And then I started to weaponize it. So up here used to be a quote unquote water gun. I guess this was some sort of a whale rescue boat for Greenpeace or something. Okay. The problem is this little pencil right here. The pencil was original. Let me get that closer to the camera. This little pencil here is original. What is not original, or what I removed, was the original water gun that was up here. It was a very toy, chunky, sort of oversized 50 caliber machine gun, to the point where you could still see where they left the ammunition belt feeding into the breech. But they repainted it blue or something to make it look like it was some sort of a air hose, or water hose, or something like that. So stripped that out, replaced it with some 50 caliber machine guns, 1 to 72 scale from a small model company, in metal, and then magnetized it so that comes off, so that it can swivel. So yeah, it's almost perfectly 17. I'm sorry, 1 to 72 or 20 millimeter. And now it's got actually two 50 caliber machine guns on the front with on a swivel magnetized mount. So step one was complete. Um, I'm going to leave this roof detachable. That way I can put guys inside when I want. So this roof might come off a couple times today. The thing is, with that kit of 50 caliber machine guns I bought, came with six 50 calibers, not two. So I have four extra 50 calibers hanging around. So what I have done is, so far, I've built out of mat board and pieces of old Opel Blitz trucks in 1 to 56 or 28 millimeter. These small gun emplacements up here on the pilot house. And then again on little homemade pencil mounts built out of sprues. Let me see if I can get some light in there so you guys can see. Some additional 50 cals. Now these do not swivel. I did not go ahead and magnetize these, but I may break them off and magnetize them depending on how many magnets I have. But yeah, we've got two 50 caliber machine guns on there as well. And then what I'm going to put on the back is two 20 millimeter cannons. So that's what I've been waiting for, and that's why this project has been on hold for quite some time. Lo and behold, my 20 millimeter cannons finally came in. It took them about a month to get them to me because this order, for some reason, came in from the Ukraine. That was fun. To the point where my instructions are all in Russian. So I wasn't very happy with that. I also wasn't very happy to learn that it is a metal kit. And when I say metal, I don't mean the kind of metal that we see in a typical, Warlord or Battlefront kit. I'm talking about like this stamped metal that you have to cut apart. Like this originally had upwards of 50 pieces on it. I don't know if you guys can tell by the shape of my fingers. This thing is really small. I've cut some pieces out of it. I'm not going to use a lot of this stuff because this is just an absurd level of detail. Again, to make something that is going to be effectively 3 inches long, here are the instructions. Again, all in Russian. And we're talking about, like, just on the mount, we're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 pieces. Hopefully I didn't just do that all off camera. A very detailed kit, I'll give them that, but way more than, I need for this project. That's for damn sure. Also, the gun was really, really fine in detail, which is a good thing, but it was not going to match with the 50 cals that I had on the roof. My 20 millimeters were barely going to be bigger than my 50 cals. They were going to be longer, but not as wide. So, and it's kind of a weird thing to complain about, but the miniatures I got for these 20 millimeter cannons were almost too good. So what I've been trying to do here is kit bash my own after all that waiting. That said, I am using big pieces of this 20 millimeter kit. I am gluing two of the gun shields together because again, the original kit is one British sort of 20 millimeter naval anti-aircraft mount is what they're aiming at here in the kit. What I'm aiming at here is a twin mounted pivot mount back here on the stern of my little fictitious assault boat. So, yeah, some old anti-tank rifles from Warlord's 28 millimeter North Africa German kit. Some pieces of the undercarriage of a Montlier truck and the original gun that actually came in the kit were all kind of kit bashed together to make this sort of piece here. And then duplicated because again I want two guns. And so far I've got the gun shields. And that's where we're going to start for today. I'm going to go ahead and see if we can't kit bash / build the rest of this thing and maybe even get it mounted. But yeah, for now, I've done some of this ahead of time, some of the really tedious parts. You guys didn't want to hear me cursing for an hour, so I did not do that part on camera. This thing is absurdly small and detailed. I have like my maximum magnification old man glasses on. I can still barely see it. Alright, so what I'm going to try and do now is mount the guns. Hopefully you guys can see how detailed this is without too much glare on it. Yeah, it's the twin gun shield, and then there are side, oops, I'm off to the side there. There are also these little side brackets on the side of the gun cradles. Now, originally there's like 5 or 6 more pieces that go in there, but again, I'm not going to worry about all that because this is going to be absurd. I'm just going to go ahead and mount these in here and see if I can kit bash the rest of this thing together. So, apologies if I miss any comments, but right now I am more or less blind. I have my maximum, way too powerful reading glasses on, so I can at least somewhat see what the hell I'm doing. Usually I have much more powerful light on this stuff, The problem is, by the time I can see it easily, the glare is way too strong for the camera here on stream. So, oh boy, that didn't work at all. I'm also having a tough time gluing stuff to this stupid copper or whatever tin plating that they sent me. Hopefully, this is somewhat in the center of camera. I really hate this metal stuff. Alright, I think we got it. Now we just have to let it dry. It's probably too far away for you guys to see. I don't want to lift it right now and show it to you guys because it's extremely fragile at the moment, but cool. Alright, clearly it's way too fragile, so what I'm going to try and do is to cut some sort of a locking piece that will sit underneath the gun shields and kind of glue the whole thing together and give it a little bit of rigidity and stability. I realize I'm preaching to the choir here, but never, ever, ever underestimate the value of a good bits box, or in this case, a bits bag. I probably should have had more of this built before we started the stream, and then have the stream focus more on the painting. not sitting in there very well. I'm going to take another stab at mounting this right hand side gun here, guys. Hold on. Kind of a critical juncture right now. As soon as I can get this to a point, alright, let me get a piece of something I can rest this on while it continues to set and dry. Okay, cool. Greetings from Kansas. Where is Kansas? Oh, Kansas. Oh, no, I'm just playing around with you, Nova Simpler. Hello and welcome to the stream. How you doing? How was your Thanksgiving? Ours was pretty mellow. We had Jen's mom over, which is always a good thing. I know it's weird to hear a guy talk that way about his quote unquote mother-in-law, but it really is true. She's actually on the site. She's on her. She's a PS Lemon on tabletop. Big history buff. So I enjoy a relationship with her better than most sons-in-law, I guess I should say. And then Friday we went down to the Miami Zoo, which is right near where Blood and Plunder is, or I should say Firelock Games. They're like right around the corner, but not the corner, like maybe an hour away. But and then they're at the Miami Zoo. They're like right by there. But I didn't think of it before we left. And I don't know if they're actually still in Ireland. I know they're having Blood and Plunder week right now. But a lot of times, all that stuff is already filmed and in the can before they actually start to broadcast it. So I'm not sure if they're even there. Oof, that's still really. Well, I'm gonna stop playing with it and let it continue to dry there. All right, so Nova Stumper, what we're trying to do is build a twin 20 millimeter gun mount that's going to go on the back of this boat here. We've already got our frontal 20s, I'm sorry, our frontal 50s on a magnet mount so they can swivel like that. And we've got our two 50s, additional 50s up here on the top of the pilot house of our improvised sort of kit bashed former SeaWorld toy, bathtub toy kind of a thing. Um, well, I'm turning it into like a military assault boat of some description. These are the 20 millimeter gun kits that I've been trying to build. They came in from Russia, or technically the Ukraine. The instructions are mostly in Ukrainian. And a gun that's going to be about 2 or 3 inches long, of course, has to have upwards of 50 or 60 pieces in it, in a gigantic construction sheet that has just. We were talking about it earlier on the stream. It has like 17 pieces just in the gun mantlet here, or the gun mounting. A little bit of overkill, I think, for a gaming miniature. But again, this is a model kit, so like nothing wrong with the kit. Weird thing to complain about, but the kit is almost a little too good. If you're really into your super detailed kit, it's a good kit. If you can stand working with this copper sort of a tin thing here, it's kind of rough. A car blew up in the street? What the hell happened there, dude? Alright, I don't even know if these are going to come out on camera. But these are the tiny little aiming sights or these probably aren't even coming out in focus. They're really small. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and try and mount these on the gun somehow. Rasmus, what's going on, sir? Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. Looking at the instructions, which is always a dangerous thing. I'm just trying to figure out where these gun mounts or these gun sights are. Rasmus, you may have seen or maybe not. We're trying to put twin 20 millimeter automatic cannons on the back of this boat, and so far it's been a mixed experience. But we will overcome. All right, putting on my grandpa glasses again. Yeah, that's actually very true, Rasmus. I have an old. Is it even handy? I don't want to get it if it's not handy. Up there in my case somewhere, I have one of those sheet metal kind of things that my girlfriend bought for me at the craft store. A Tiger tank, all built out of flat sheet metal. And you have to like fold it together and pull these pins and not pull these pins, like fold these tabs over. Um, Very difficult and yeah, very easy to cut the crap out of yourself if you're not careful. Oh man, I must be crazy. What the hell am I doing? Trying to do this and on stream. Must be absolutely out of my tree. You know what I'm gonna do? Hold on. Do this a smart way. Bit of an ad hoc stream here, folks. But then again, what other kind do we have? Um, they're fun, Novus Templar, as far as these metal kits go. I don't really recommend them. You can't really paint them. They don't come out terribly realistic. They are absurdly difficult. Um, I straight out did not know that this kit that I'm building here was one of those, or I really wouldn't have ordered it. But I am determined to kind of make the most of it. Especially since half of the, well, not half, it's like this one particular gun sight here, some of the metal pieces that are supposed to be so finely detailed and etc., when I went to fold it as the instructions said, I wound up snapping one of them. So, you know what though? It's not coming out too bad so far. If this holds, right now it's just whether or not the damn thing holds together. I'll let the super glue dry for quite a while, and then hopefully it'll. If it holds, we're doing pretty good. I do have a can of gray primer out here. I'll slap some gray primer on there because again, a lot of it's this weird sheet metal stuff. So I'm not even going to try and paint that without priming it pretty well first. And once that's all put together and primed, I'll go ahead and actually maybe slap some paint on this thing. Then once it's painted and dried, I'll build a pencil mount on the back of this boat, and then we'll just magnetize it to that. And assuming the glue holds, we'll be in pretty good shape. Maybe if I spray enough primer on the primer, will hold it together. I don't know. What do you guys think? That's my plan. That's my master plan. So I'm just gonna let that sit there for a few minutes and get stronger, and I'll start working on where we're gonna put this thing, the actual mount. So I have no idea where I'm gonna mount this thing. Um, oh my God, an X-wing of one of these metal kits. I've done. You know what? I'm gonna find that tiger now. Give me 1 second, guys. Oh yeah, I'm not able to find it right now. No worries. Yeah, I've built like one or two of those, and honestly, they're not really my cup of tea. Oh, they are challenging. I'll give them that. If very difficult, or I should say, very challenging kits are your thing, then that is your thing. But for me, it was just a touch much. All right, so what I'm trying to do now is to fabricate a, uh, a piece of this, or fabricate a pylon or a pencil on which to mount this weapon system once it finishes drying. So I have a spare German Opel Blitz truck that I got from Warlord. I got it at the boot camp. Again, it's a spare one. I do have that kit. I am building it. I didn't, throw it away or cut it up for spare parts or anything. I do have it. It's just on hold right now. It's probably about 2/3 done. I just have to finish up some of this other stuff first. And honestly, I haven't done a lot of modeling at all this year, so I'm just getting back into it. Or I should say, a lot of hobby this year at all. So I'm trying to get back into it. Yeah, it's been tough. If you'll excuse me for just 1 more second, please. I'm going to get one 20 millimeter guy for scaling. Alright, so here's my, or one of my, 1 to 72, or 20 millimeter Caesar miniatures, Modern Warfare miniatures. Now, he won't be obviously quite this tall in real life because here he's sitting on top of a pretty chunky base. So I'll have to take that into account. So I want to make this base, or I should say I want to make this pencil. I move my big finger out of the way. I want to make this figure. I want to make this pylon the right height so that when the gun sits on it, it looks like this guy could actually stand behind there and operate it, taking into account the height of his base. Yeah, a lot of fabrication and a lot of kit bashing in the Oriskany house. I build a lot of my own stuff. My philosophy is if you spend too much money on a miniature, you're not doing it right. Then you're just spending money. It's not really a hobby. Sorry if that's shaking the camera, guys. So I'm using a little bit of the rear axle of this Opel Blitz truck to make a simple little mount for where this weapon will sit. I have here my little bag of magnets. Everyone knows how these magnets are. Has anyone made the mistake of gluing magnets on in the wrong order? Has anyone, or am I the only one stupid enough to have done that? Am I the only person that's ever done that? You put like the magnet on the bottom of your turret and the magnet on your hull, and you get them switched around the polarity, and you go to put the turret on, and it jumps off like a Mexican jumping bean. Highly annoying. Good luck getting one of those magnets back off there once you finally have it super glued where it'll stick. Good luck with all that. Jen says I should have elevator music for when I leave you guys. I can always play Battlestar Musactica. It's like her favorite piece of music. This boat here is about half the size of the one we took on the island last week. Yeah, this is more like the size of the boat you guys went to the island on. As far as the boat you took, as in took out, Yeah, that would definitely be bigger than this thing. Although ironically, this boat is better armed. This boat is almost unrealistically well armed. Turning this into a little mini battleship because why not? Some old side skirts from a 1 to 100 uh, T-54s. And there's another ruined razor blade. That's okay, I have dozens more, if not hundreds. And that didn't work, so I'll try another one. And I'm sure you guys already know this, but never throw away anything in a kit. There's no such thing as spare pieces. You can use it for something eventually somewhere, especially if you build in different scales. Something that looks very. And there's another broken. God damn, man! This plastic is tearing up my razor blades here. Deceptively strong plastic. Anyway, like I was saying, yeah, don't ever throw anything away. There's always a use for something, especially again if you build in different scales. Something that looks very distinctive in like a certain scale will look like something totally different in another scale. Like I've read, that's how they built some of those old ships in like the original Star Wars. Like all that surface detailing we see on the bottom of that Star Destroyer. They didn't sit there and like 3D print that stuff. Obviously, they didn't handcraft or design that stuff. They literally just went to a bunch of old junky model stores and took a bunch of bits, slapped it all on there, and by the time you put that little bit of primer on there, and then you put that light gray or almost white, like that color the Star Destroyers are, that extremely light gray or white finish on there. To the point where I was actually just watching some YouTube videos today saying that modern CG modelers are having a hell of a time replicating some of that stuff. Because whereas back in the 70s it was just a bunch of, guys slapping old kits junk onto it and spraying it with white spray paint. Nowadays you actually have to plan ahead and render all that stuff. And in an ironic way, it's a lot harder to do that in CG than in real life. Oh my god, this thing is the worst. Why is it navy camo? Because I thought it looked cool. The rule of cool. If you want the honest answer. God, this thing is so freaking fragile. Okay, guys. Apologies in advance if I curse a lot. You know what? I'm not even going to try it. Damn it. Oh, I think I got away with it. This metal model kit is just absurdly fragile. I literally can't even look at it without bending something. Alright. Which is why I'm trying to mount these plastic pieces underneath it to give it some rigidity so I have something else to handle it by. Do you mind, please? And that just broke. Oh boy. We have to do this Battletech style. Battletech style. Oh wait, I can't do that. Damn it. Because then I won't be able to spray it. I think I got it repaired. Ugh, so annoying. Drink, yeah, right? Millennium Falcon used turds from the Tiger. Yeah, I'm sure if you got like the original the model kits they used to make those movies and really looked at them closely, you'd be able to identify all kinds of little um, things they use here and there to not build like the actual structure of the model, but the surface detailing. All right, I'm going to let that dry a little bit, guys, and then I'm going to come back and put some primer on that. And then once I put the primer on it, I'll go ahead and mount it and then really let it dry. The pylon is built. The magnets are in place. They're ready to get their they're ready to have the weapon mounted on it, so it'll pivot. Um, Drink. Why would I be drinking right now? Trust me, I feel like drinking. Hopefully that's not coming out loud on the mic. I'm trying to get this super glue to dry a little bit. You know what? Fortune favors the bold. Step away from the camera for 2 seconds here. Oh, that's nice. My primer is completely clogged up. Okay, I guess I'm not priming this gray. I guess I have to prime it with something else. Hold on, guys. How do we get another can of primer? And the hits don't stop. Alright, guys. I was able to find another can of gray primer. So I was successful in getting that primed. Let that sit for just a second. I tell you what, I don't know how fragile or steady it is, but it definitely looks a lot better now that it's primed. Let that dry for just a few seconds. My girlfriend is right across the table. Jen, I'm going to aim the camera at you just for a second. Hey, hi, Jen. She's over there beating. That's her hobby. While I embarrass myself here with miniatures. So, guys, Gianna actually played a game of Panzer Blitz the other day with her house guest Gaz. What did I just say? Did I just say that Jen played Panzerler, or did I just say Gianna? I said Gianna, right? Okay. Because Gianna's saying me too. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Gianna. You guys played Panzer Blitz yesterday. All right, so while we're waiting for that primer to dry, I've also been working on my Marine infantry. I don't know how well this is going to come out on camera. These are only 15 millimeter. Again, my camera is a little better than my old camera, but still not great. Um, but you can see where I sort of have that four color camouflage on my 15 millimeter Marine infantry here. So that's four colors in the camouflage, plus green equipment, plus brown boots, plus black weapons, and of course flesh tones. So they got about 7 or 8 colors on them. I kind of compromise on the boots. So, I mean, I know the boots that they wear over there now are like a brown or a light brown. The boots of the time were a mix. Some guys were wearing the old black Cadillacs. Some guys were wearing green jungle boots or green jungle boots. Some Marines were wearing desert colored boots. The Gulf War kind of came on the American military rather suddenly. Everybody was geared up to fight the Russians in the late 80s. And then in 1990, boom, Desert Shield hits, and then 91 is Desert Storm. So the equipment is still all over the place. You see some guys completely from head to toe. I remember this distinctly. I remember some guys were still wearing the complete, jungle or forest, four-colored NATO camouflage that we see from, West Germany or Okinawa or who knows where else. So it was a little bit more mixed and matched. So rather than paint my boots all different colors, I picked a color in the middle. I just painted them all, brown. Um, Other than that, they're pretty historically accurate, except for maybe the dragons. I'll have to look that up again. I was trained on the AT-4. Anti-tank gunners, to my knowledge, in the Marine Corps in the late '90s, late '80s, early '90s, were using the AT-4. I'll have to look up the Dragon. These came from the U.S. Infantry platoon set from Battlefront for Team Yankee. So these are, I think, supposed to be mostly U.S. Army. So I'll have to look up how those dragons worked out. But no matter what, the miniatures are almost done. I'll probably be leaving the bases exactly the way they are because I don't want to put them on the Battlefront bases. I don't want to restrict them to Battlefront the game. And I have a weird feeling that once you put them on a Battlefront base, like the number of guys that go on a Battlefront base for their designated platoon or fire teams and so on, command groups, that you're kind of locking them in, so to speak, to a certain um, to a certain game system. And whether you like Battlefront or not, as far as their game systems go, i.e., Team Yankee, Fate of a Nation, or Flames of War, that's almost not the point. The point is, I don't like locking them into a game system, even a good game system. One of the things I like about Battle Group, the game system, is that it does not require you to mount your infantry in any kind of a base configuration. They can be based. They don't have to be based. They can be individual. You can put them in four-man teams. You can, it realizes that people have miniatures from different gaming companies and that you're going to be playing and with different miniatures. You don't have to rebase, rip apart all your miniatures and rebase them to play in this new game. Okay, I might have said Jen or Gianna. They sound kind of similar. I probably did screw it up. I'm sorry. The next game we are supposed to be team up against Jim. Who are you going to team up against me with, John? What are you talking about? Well, go ahead and say it.
Last time we played Air War,
All right.
she and I were going to team up against you.
Oh, okay. So Gianna and Jen want to team up against, or at least Jen says this. I don't know. I don't want to speak for Gianna. Jen wants to team up with Gianna against me in a game of Air War. I think she's hoping that the complete humiliation that I received at the hands of Gianna in the game of Air War and the complete humiliations I hand out to Jen will somehow balance out and we'll get like a nice even game. Because so far, I found, with one exception,
You got it.
that is a game where one side or the other wins almost totally. It's Air War is a unforgiving mistress. All right, guys, moment of freaking truth. God help me. Be cool, man. I gotta think. I gotta think. I gotta think. I gotta think. Jen, do me a favor. Bring me that green broom over there, please. Relatively quickly. This glue is drying, and I can't leave it like this. In fact, let me go ahead and take this off. Okay. Thanks. The gun went on there fine, guys. It just wasn't going on there at a very good angle. The guns were kind of depressed and they were kind of pointing downward. So I am putting on one more piece to fix that. Get that out of the way. Alright, guys, the guns are mounted. Try and get that up to the camera there. Again, if I use my. Oh man, what the hell did I do with that? I had a 20 millimeter guy here a second ago. Oh, here he is. Again, he's going to be a little tall because he's on a pretty big chunky base. But that's kind of what we were aiming for, something like that. So hopefully that's coming out okay on camera. Let me get that a little closer. Hopefully the walleye effect isn't getting too bad. Yeah, that's kind of what we're aiming at here for twin 20 millimeter cannons on the back of this boat. So it looks okay for now. I just don't know how steady it is. Technically, it should be swivelable. I just don't know how much I'm going to want to swivel it because these guns are going to probably break off of here. I'm definitely not going to mess with it right now because it's trying to glue to that. It's trying to glue to that magnet. So I'm not gonna mess with it for right now. I'm probably not gonna mess with it until after the stream. That way, if they break again, and I go apoplectic with rage, at least you guys don't have to put up with it. No, it won't be. It won't be a rage because I'm kind of half expecting it at this point. So, um, yeah, that was me building the guns. I literally had to build these things, and kit bashing them together, building a mount bracket for them, and mounting them on the back of the gun, and also priming them. I might throw a little bit more primer on there if I'm very careful. It's kind of late to because I don't want to spray the boat with primer, but with some very careful use of cardstock and so on, I might be able to throw a little bit, or I might just leave it the way it is. Yeah, it looks good. Thanks, everybody. It definitely looks good. I just don't know how sturdy it is. Um, we will have to wait and see. I'm not going to mess with it until the glue dries too much more. So we'll set that off to one side for right now, and we'll see what I'm going to do after that. Tell you what I'll do in the meantime. So we're not sitting here not doing anything. I'll paint some of these radars and other sensors here on the top of the boat. Especially handy since the whole roof assembly comes off, and I can do that without disturbing those guns while they dry. Jeez. Was anything going to go my way today? That wants to break now. Funny how the plastic that I want to break, i.e. this little bit of flash, won't come off with the force of a sun, but the piece underneath it is just ready to break instantly. Because I love my life. To answer your question a little less glibly from before, St. Vitus answer, I just, why is it blue? I just thought it was a neat chance to do something besides desert green or um, like sand khaki, desert yellow. If you look up like on Google Images, you look up like military patrol boat or something, you're gonna see a lot of stuff in camouflage like this. And that just broke. Cause I love my life. That's alright. That was an easy fix. You know what? Before I do that, a small piece of very fine sandpaper. Hopefully, this isn't shaking the camera too much. What kind of hobby are you guys up to? First of all, Jana, weren't you guys playing a game? Sometime, maybe she's left the stream now. Last I heard, she was going to be actually playing a game somewhere at her house today. So if you have to go, by all means, no worries at all. Is this the beginning of a new movie, The Guns of Oriskany? Um, I hope not. Yeah, the Oriskany, the warship, is a lot bigger than this. Rasmus says, I felt the guns of Oriskany in Lloydoslavia and other places. Um, yeah, Rasmus and I played, I think, 4 games. Maybe it was 5. We played a lot of Team Yankee back during the Team Yankee boot camp back in 2015. If I remember correctly, I think it was 5 because you won 3 games, I won 2. Um, I don't know if this is a trick of the game or if it's how the Russians are supposed to work in that game. I tended to do better the bigger the games got. Like the first game we had where it was just one M1 Abrams versus 3 T-72s. Um, Rasmus's one M1 Abrams stomped my 3 C-72s like at least twice. Then we did like 3 versus 5 or something like that. And as it stepped up, the more it stepped up, the better I did. And finally, we had that one big game of everything you have versus everything I have. That was with Cobras, Hinds, mechanized infantry. I actually did pretty well in that game. But I don't know if that's a Russian thing or if that's just me finally learning how the game works. I know that's definitely how it worked at the Desert War, Flames of War, 4th edition boot camp. That's for damn sure. The Germans, if you guys remember from that boot camp, lost literally every single game in round one. Campaign round one, they lost every one. They lost 6 out of 6 games. And in round two, they won one, lost 5. In round three, they won like 3 games and lost 5. We had more players by that point, and on and on and on. And until finally, at the end, we were winning more games than we were losing, a lot. And the big mega game at the end, we won that game pretty decisively. Won that game by like 12 points. And that wasn't really a function of the size of the game. It was a function of the Germans have a smaller army in that game, obviously, because they're the Germans, but they have a more complex army. You have to know all the special rules in order to get your points worth out of your units. So when the game is just basically, hey, here are my tanks, here are your tanks, let's just shoot each other up and we'll see who wins. Yeah, the British are going to win that game because their 110 points or whatever is going to have them with 16 tanks. We're going to have five, and their tanks are going to be either very very tough Grants or very very fast Crusaders. And yeah, they were stomping us at first, but as the boot camp went on, I was managing the campaign part of that game, so I actually have all the numbers. I posted all the numbers. Ran a little bit of a operational analysis after the boot camp, and it was literally the further the weekend went, the better the Germans did, and I think it was because the players were getting more used to all the special rules and abilities that the German faction has in that game. And you're paying for it in points, whether you know it or not. And the point is, if you don't know, no pun intended, the point of the points. The point is, if you're not taking advantage of it, if you're not getting your money's worth out of those points, it becomes just about numbers. Yeah, the British are going to stomp you. Because not only do they have more, but their tanks are actually pretty good. Those Grants are not bad against Mark 3 J's and Mark 4 E's. Make sure I'm not leaning on any of my 50 caliber barrels here. Yeah, the thing about when you're trying to quote unquote rescue or kit bash or whatever you want to call it, when you're trying to use old toys like this instead of like real purpose built models, or let me put it this way: if you're ever curious why, or if you ever ask yourself why sometimes these miniatures cost more than or cost as much as they do compared to like again toys or whatever, try painting a toy once or twice and you'll be like, oh, that's why. Because the plastic is just absolute garbage. When you're used to painting like good, Battlefront or Warlord miniatures or whatever, PSC miniatures, Caesar miniatures, and then you go to paint like KB toys or something. I mean, it's fun. It's no stress. You don't care if you really screw it up, but man, it's actually pretty tough sometimes. Like this plastic I'm painting here is, I know it's not coming out on camera, but it's pretty damn porous, and it's tough to get a smooth coat on there. Even the airbrush didn't go on there terribly well, which is partly why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm sort of covering up some of the worst parts of the airbrush job. And as far as the guns of Oriskany go, Rasmus, you haven't really faced them until you've faced USS Oriskany in Darkstar. That day is coming, my friend. That day is coming. That's still not great on that. The radar bowl is fine. This radar bar is not really where I want it to be. We got to get back to that campaign, especially now that we have another faction in. The Black Dragons have been thrown out of that war per our campaign charts. We actually have a campaign chart going, measuring the different levels of political investiture that each faction has. So some factions are in it, balls to the wall, so to speak. Some factions are just, they're kind of in it. as long as it doesn't get too costly or too embarrassing. And the Black Dragons were one of those kind of a factions. Um, because they're basically a stateless faction. They don't really have the option of going, getting super invested. They don't have a country. They don't have a planet. They can never go home to Earth. There aren't any other Earth-like planets out there. Because despite what we see in Star Trek, those planets just don't exist. We're finding planets everywhere. Trust me. When it comes to real life exoplanet research, which is sort of what Dark Star is loosely based on, um, there's the good news and bad news kind of a situation. Good news: there are planets absolutely freaking everywhere. The very next planet, star over, Proxima Centauri, a red dwarf, has a couple of exoplanets around it. The problem is a nice, stable solar system like ours, where the planets are more or less in circular or at least stable elliptical orbits. Those are the exception. What we're finding is a lot of very wild sort of uh, star systems with hot Jupiters and everything else that sling other planets out of the star system. The idea of finding the kind of planets you see in Star Trek where you can just beam down, step out of the shuttle, and walk around and have an adventure is horseshit. It's just not what we're finding. So this faction that I'm talking about, the stateless faction or this planetless faction, I should say, has to always sort of be very careful because they don't actually have a plan. They don't have a home base, and so they're often some of the earliest guys to jump out of a war. That happened this time, and as they jumped out, my friend in Shanghai, Mr. Drew, has jumped in, and so now we have the Arab League in the war. Oh God, do I want to try it? Look at that, guys! Look at that, guys! Are you guys seeing this on camera? Is my big hand in the way? The 20 millimeters are freely rotating as long as you don't handle it by the gun shield. It is staying in place. Alright, they're not. So you handle it by the barrels, which is not a good idea. The gun breech is probably the best way to handle it. Just definitely not by the gun shields. The gun sights have even managed to. Oh, that one gun sight's about to break off. I might just give up on those gun sights. They look cool, but they're just way too. They're probably not even showing up on camera. They're just way too fragile. But all in all, the gun is in place. Look at that. The 20s are staying where they're supposed to be, and they are free rotating. They're not coming off the pencil. Holy crap, what a relief. Okay, guys, so this boat, again, is still not done. There's a million little more things I want to finish painting on. I also have to plug up all these little holes. Where the on, I probably want to get rid of this on-off switch that's on the back. It's not really historically accurate for there to be a gigantic on and off word on the back of the engine deck here. Um, where Junior, the 10-year-old kid, used to play with it in his bathtub or whatever. I got to plug up all these little holes where the screws used to go, holding this thing together. I'm gonna have to paint this boat deck or this deck plate here where the batteries used to go, and of course everything else. There's a million little details on here that I'm gonna want to paint up, and then probably put some more hot glue gun on the bottom part here because this wake probably needs a little bit more oomph to it, so to speak. And yeah, cool. And again, this wasn't really supposed to be a miniature. This was literally something that we bought on a whim, and it's just something I've been playing around with on and off for the last couple months or whatever. Like once a week, I'll throw a couple hours at it or something, kind of like I did here today, and we'll see where it goes. Put little gunner back there, so we got a guy to scale. Again, these are 20 millimeter cannons, so yeah, these are supposed to be pretty big. Um, and I'm happy to say that the guns are holding steady. One of the gun sights is about to break off. I may have to either reinforce that or just give up on the gun sights. The kit also did come with ammo drums, very very small ammunition drums, which I'm probably going to mount on there and paint up. Because that's just good old fashioned plastic. This looks a lot more familiar to the kind of modeling that we like to do. I got two of those because again I had to order two of these kits. At least the kits were reasonable. They were about $6 a piece. Um, Judging, or I should say, considering that I didn't use 80% of it, because it's this ridiculous tinfoil stuff, which is really hard to work with. Um, Although highly detailed, I give it that. All right, guys. Me and Damon ran a pair of cruisers against Battle Group Oriskany. You guys, oh, that's right, you did, and you guys won that battle too. All right, never mind. You have fought the Oriskany. You guys won that battle, but the Oriskany was not crippled, if I remember correctly. Actually, I don't remember. I'll have to actually look it up on the project page. Okay, so yeah, let me answer some questions here in the chat. Still have nightmares about the Hinds. Yeah, those Hinds were pretty badass. Oh man, A10, F14, F18, Gianna. Holy crap, that's awesome. Burros and Badgers. You know what? We used to play. We were big fans of the Brian Jacques Redwall series. Um, Not quite Burros and Badgers, but it's the same general idea. Um, the what call it? There's no game for it, to my knowledge, but we sort of created one. Basically, I repurposed battle system to run large mass combat in the Redwall universe. And then there was a role playing game for oh god, what the hell was his name? Can't remember his full name. Ralph Peters, I think. No, I'm probably getting his name wrong. Of the Mouse Guard series. Started off with graphic novels, and then later came out with a role playing game. Ironically, it started off as a game he played with his brother and some friends up in his attic when he was a kid. They kind of made up their own, kind of a role playing game for their Burrows and Badgers type universe, except it was all mice. Hence the name Mouse Guard. Then later he said, "Oh, let's turn this from a game now that we've grown up. Let's go ahead and try and make like a graphic novel based on." And the graphic novels got popular enough to where it's back to being a role playing game. So it kind of came full circle. We played a little bit of that, and yeah. So again, I'm not real familiar with Burrows and Badgers specifically, but I am very familiar and a big fan of that genre. That might come as a surprise to some people, but yeah, trust me, we're very, very big into that kind of stuff. Um, I don't have any miniatures for it. We did most of that with counters and so on, and battle system. But yeah, big fans of that sort of genre. Wind of the Willows slash RPG or war game, skirmish game, kind of gaming. And of course, yeah, A10, F14, F18 sounds great for VR. VR A10, it's almost like my dream come true. Lee had the profile against it, but I liked it as a double gun setup. It's right up my alley. Yeah, hold on a second here, guys. Oof. So we have the Lee, which is the original American version. Um, Here in Battlefront Medals. And then there came the Grant, which was the British sort of version, which I sort of kit bashed and made my own, based on a Lee. Basically, I just changed the shape of the turret. Uh, so yeah, believe it or not, the Lee is actually a little bit taller than the Grant. The British took one look at that third turret on top of it, that cupola, and said, "The hell with that," and chopped it off. Ooh, there's a lot of dust on there. Been a while since I played with those. Um, what was I gonna say? Wasn't 100% a fan. Well, I was a fan. You know what? Let me take that back. I was a fan. I was just what's the word here? I would have had one suggestion for how they handled the two guns in the fourth edition Battlefront game that we played. Um, their idea was to make this the primary gun, the 75 millimeter, down here in the gun mantlet, or the sponson, I should say, and then what they used to call it the boot camp, the pop gun, the 37 millimeter anti-tank gun up top. You get to fire that at a +1 difficulty. Reverse that. Make the more powerful gun fire at the +1 difficulty. Yes, it's going to make these um, grants a little bit less powerful, but in my opinion, in that game, they were way overpowered. These tanks were monsters in that game. At least when we were playing. Again, we were playing very early 4th edition. And one of the big reasons these grants were so scary was, again, they were very. This gun here should have had the more difficult number to hit. Number one, it's way too low, so it can't see over half the terrain most of the time. And number two, it's not in a turret, so it has to fire off this sponson. It can pretty much fire front and to the left. I'm sorry, to the right. It can't fire to the left. So they have to turn the whole tank. So if any gun is going to have a +1 difficulty, it's going to be this one. And how these crews were trained, this was the main gun. That was the support gun. This is the anti-tank gun, high velocity 37 millimeter. This thing didn't even have armor-piercing ammunition. It was howitzer shell ammunition and high explosive only, especially when they first came out. In this old 75 millimeter, that isn't even the 75 millimeter that's in the Sherman. This is a 75 millimeter left over from World War One. So by giving this gun the primary status and making this gun secondary, is not only historically inaccurate, but it made the tank overpowered. It would have been one tiny little simple fix that really would have fixed the grant, at least in that game, to my knowledge, or to my what's the word? In my opinion. But yeah, the game overall was fun. That's for damn sure. At least that mega game. Holy crap, that mega game was awesome. 24-foot table, 12 players. We had like almost 175 tanks on the table at one time. That was a game, folks, let me tell you. Yeah, burros and, well, again, I don't know anything about burros and badgers in particular. What I know a lot about is that genre, sort of, in Redwall and Mouse Guard. So one of these days we might start buying burros and badgers. I don't know. Are the miniatures good? Are you guys playing with the miniatures? Or I should say, Jen, are you painting the miniatures now? Are they good quality? Oh, Nova Stumper, you've also bought burros and badgers. Cool. So are they plastic? Are they metal? Are they resin? Okay, Rasmus. Yeah, the Grant Lee is way too tall to hide anywhere. The way they handle that in Panzer Leader is they give it a low defense value. So even though it has the same armor value as a Sherman, should say, if you actually look at the design specs, the armor is generally the same thickness. They take 1 point off because of this riveted construction. The Sherman does not have riveted construction. It was either cast or welded. And riveted construction is very bad in tanks. If a shell hits it, the rivets pop loose and they can go inside the tank and kill the driver or kill the crew, or it just falls apart. It's definitely not a good way to build the tank. So pretty much whenever a tank has riveted construction and Panzer Leader, they take 1 point off for that, and they took 1 point off for the height. So whereas a Sherman normally has a defense of 11 or 10, a platoon of Grants will usually run you about an 8 for defense. And that's just enough to make a huge difference in Panzer Leader. So yeah, these things are scary to use, and they do not in desert combat. They don't get a +1. I should say they only get a +1 in hold down, whereas other Allied tanks get a +2. Because how are you going to go hold down with this thing? It's 14 feet tall. Resin for big boys like the Badgers and the Beaver. Okay, cool. Good quality minis. Awesome. Metal and resin. Okay, cool. I'll have to look into that. Nomad 1166. Hello, sir. That's our boy Damon. All right, Damon. You showed up when the stream's almost over. But what we did today is I put new 20 millimeter cannons that I sort of had to build myself, kit bash myself on the back of this boat. And they are magnetized, and so far they're not breaking. So yay! This was a very fragile piece of equipment to put together. In fact, there is one piece on there that's about to break off. Uh, do I have tweezers here? Or needle nose pliers or something? Hold on, guys. Let me see what I can find here in my toolbox. I may just. Oh, cool. Thank you, John. That is one benefit of having a girlfriend who is into beating right across the table from you. I'm going to go ahead and break this off. Yeah, there it goes. I'm going to try and put that back on there. She has some wicked awesome tools. All right, I apologize if this glare gets too heavy, guys. I need some extra light here. All right, attempt one did not work. All right, there's attempt two. It's a little crooked, but at least it's on there. Hey, scratch building for the win. Hell yeah, you know it. Hey, you know what, Damon? I'm glad you showed up. This kit came in from the Ukraine for me to have these two 20 millimeter guns that I've been building. They look like the old British Navy 20 millimeters from World War II. The Americans also used these. They called them the Mark 10. Um, but the majority of the pieces in this kit are this ridiculous stamped kind of plastic, or not plastic. I'm sorry, this stamped copper or tin, whatever the hell it is. I don't even know what metal this is, to be perfectly honest. Um, didn't you guys build a bunch of stuff like this? Those boats or I'm sorry, those ships you built for Battle of Tsushima or the 1905 Russo-Japanese War? Did you guys have a lot of metal in that, if memory serves? I'm trying to think back to those pictures. For some reason, I remember there being a lot of metal in those big warships, those 1905 pre-dreadnought battleships you guys had on that table. I might be remembering it wrong, but I thought I remember there being a lot of metal on there. And if so, do you find it like metal like this? Do you find it hard to work with, or any tricks or tips for working with that kind of stuff? Brass, thank you. Yeah, holy crap, Saint Vitus Dancer. Yeah, detailed is right. I don't know if you were on the stream before, but that's the instructions for basically a model that's 2.5, 3 inches long. To mount one 20 millimeter gun on the deck has 17 pieces in it. Some of them you have to fold, and some of them you have to roll. It is absolutely absurd. I don't know who builds like this. Um, I think they need to look for professional help. But it's tough to work with. Although I will say this, I know it's not coming out on camera here, but the gun sights on those 20 millimeters, they are exceedingly well detailed. I will say that. They're just going to break off every time somebody goes to actually move the guns. So you have the mounts working great. It's scaled correctly. The gun shields look fine. Um, yeah. So later on, what I'll do is I'll put a little bit of a dark. I'm sorry, a little bit of a dark wash on there, and a little bit of a dry brush to bring out some of the details. And yeah, that's pretty much done. Scratch built with brass tube and rod. Bucket of patience, super glued tweezers, and swearing. Yeah, I have lots of super glue, and I have lots of swearing. I do have tweezers. I do not have the patience. Yeah, I thought so. I thought I saw a lot of. I kept calling it copper. Yeah, Gianna corrected me. It's brass. A lot of brass on there. So on this model, the gun shields are the